So here you have Republicans and Democrats coming together to get something done, and they want to make sure people know about it. Now, whether these news stories can break through the filter of our social media and all the cat videos we're watching, I'm not sure, but I do think in terms of putting that message forward, you're seeing an affirmative effort both from the administration and also supporters on Capitol Hill. I'm Ronnie Chatterji. I'm a professor of business and public policy at Duke University. I was formerly the chief economist of the United States Department of Commerce and the White House coordinator for the CHIPS and Science Act. I started in 2021 working for Secretary Raimondo at the beginning of the administration. This is the period where we had big chip shortages all around the world, and we were trying to figure out how to make our supply chains more resilient. The CHIPS Act is part of a broader set of policies which people often refer to as industrial policy. What is industrial policy in short? It's when the government provides support, often subsidies, grants, loans, tax credits, to key critical industries to make sure that they grow domestically. Now, a lot of countries in Asia and Europe have been doing this for a long time, but really since the 1990s, these policies haven't been in fashion in the United States. And what's really interesting about the CHIPS and Science Act and the Inflation Reduction Act and the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law is they constitute a return to industrial policy. There's a lot of potential, also a lot of risks. And for business leaders, they need to be thinking about how these three sets of policies are going to impact their bottom lines and their employees.
How are you seeing businesses respond to the legislation right now?
Well, you're seeing massive amounts of private sector investment on the heels of these bills. The first thing that I think business leaders are noting is that they're making bets on America again, because the Biden administration has said, look, we're going to build chips in the United States again. So since the CHIPS and Science Act passed in 2022, we've seen over $150 billion of private sector investment in the United States in semiconductors. You're seeing that in the Inflation Reduction Act as well. A lot of the climate adjacent industries, think wind, solar, carbon capture and storage, green hydrogen, hundreds of billions of dollars of investment has come from the private sector since the Inflation Reduction Act passed. So I think the first thing you're seeing from the private sector is a lot of interest and a lot of investment.
Are you seeing any impacts that are surprising to you right now?
What surprised me most is the geographic footprint of the investments we've seen so far. Manufacturing investments in rural areas make a lot of sense because this is where we have a lot of manufacturing already. In the South, we've seen a lot of manufacturing moving there over the last 25 years. Now, we're hopefully going to see investments all across the country.
What advice do you have for business leaders who are looking to take advantage of this legislation?
First, you have to understand the rules of the game. Pieces of legislation are very complicated. Really making sure that your government affairs team and the C-suite is paying attention to how those rules are being written and how it affects your firm is incredibly important. The second thing is keeping the communication channels open. A lot of times in government, we need to hear from the private sector about what frictions they have to making more investment. For example, to solve our climate challenges, we need to go from the billions of dollars in the Inflation Reduction Act to trillions of dollars in private sector investment. That's only going to happen if we unlock private sector capital, and we need to hear from business leaders about what the frictions are to deploying that.
So what headlines would you expect to see in a couple of years due to the legislation?
If we're successful, I think what you'll see is leading edge capacity on the chip side in the United States for the first time in a long time. Right now, the most leading edge chips are made in East Asia, 92% of those are in Taiwan. If we succeed over the next decade, I think you'll see those plants being built in the United States, starting to put out a large amount of new advanced logic chips in the United States. I think that's key. I think you'll also see a larger share of the infrastructure for our energy transition being made in the United States, and hopefully you'll see the companies that are producing those things in good financial situations. If you see that, I think we'll be successful. Those are the headlines we're looking for.